Welcome back everyone. In today's video, what we're gonna do here is to replace the display panel or the display screen for the H3000B. Let's get started. The first thing that we're gonna do here is to remove some of the screws. These screws hold the main board of the display panel together. There are a couple things that I do wanted to highlight here. The first thing here is the ground connection, the red wire in this case, and then also the flex cable. Keep in mind that I'm taking my time to really be careful removing these screws, not to force anything or trying not to break the main board or the main traces because it's a very delicate unit. Alright, we're trying to remove the ground, the red wire here. So taking out the screw. Okay, move it out. As you can see here, most of the screws have been removed, but the board is still attached. The reason here we need to remove the encoder. So next what we're going to do is to remove the flathead screws over there that holds the encoder, and then underneath that I believe there is a washer. So we're going to remove that next. So I'm changing my screwdriver, the head for the screwdriver, and really carefully try to remove the screw. That screw will hold the big encoders in the front. Once we remove that screw, the front encoder will also remove. There are a couple of washers there, so make sure to take it out carefully so you don't lose anything. As you can see here, that there is a big washer there. That particular nut holds the main board, so trying to use the socket to remove that slowly. Again, make sure that we don't break anything, not using like any forces. So once we remove it, then we can take out the board. That's what I believe. Let's try it. Here we go. Slowly. Yep. So you can see there's a keypad there, the buttons, and absolutely the main screen that we're trying to replace. So on to the next step then. Next one, what we're trying to do here to take out some of the screws that holds the main display. Keep in mind, again, this particular screws, you gotta take your time. They're very tight, and then underneath on the right side, as you can see over here, there's also two pins of the like a wires. Those are need to be unsoldered, take out using like the wick or something. But first thing first, that we need to remove all the screws and nut and and washers and keep them safely. Make sure that you use a socket to do it and really take your time to remove it. Now I'm still working on it, but as you can see here, the nut starts easily to be removed. That's the part that we're trying to remove, and some of the other nuts already been removed. Then, like I said, underneath that there is a two wires that we need to unsolder or take out the solder, and the pins on the left side. Now everything's are unscrewed. Now we're gonna work to it. We're gonna work on soldering some of the stuff, some of the pins. Let's start on the right side, the two pins or two wires, using like a wick. Again, take your time to do it slowly. Make sure that really have a patience to do it. Make sure like we don't break anything, break the connections. So the wires also coming from the top of the old display and then underneath the board. That's the better way to unsolder it. As you can see here, it starts moving, trying to test it out. No any big forces, just small forces to do it, to check whether I can lift it out. And between the old display and the main board, there is also a washer that holds the piece together, where before I was using like a screw. Then on the left side here, those are like the pins that we need to unsolder, clean it out. The main connections to the displays. And yeah, after that we should be able to put the pins back together with the new display. Alright, we already took off the right side. Now we're gonna work on the left side pins. We're gonna use the same method. Take your time. And I'm also taking my time, not forcing anything, not bending anything excessively. Make sure that I wanted to keep all the connections, all the PCB coppers stay intact, not overheating it. Just do very slow and then very careful towards the top and the bottom. Now everything's already removed. Then taking some isopropyl alcohol to clean it out. Now we are ready to put the new screen, the new display. And this is a drop-in place display that usually can just snap in within the using the same pins, right? The same connections. But in this case, like, I took off the connection, and then I'm gonna replace with the new pins. Then let's get started. Let's get to it. By the way, it came also with the display too, like acrylic display. But let's try to fit in first. Make sure that it's really drop fit in, just to test, because on the website it shows like it drops fit in. So let's put the pin. There's no way that you can be wrong how you put the pin. So the long one of the pins is going to be on the back side, and then we're gonna solder that and align them to make sure that we can reuse the same screws that we used before. Alright, now we already put the pins, the headers, together, and we're ready to put the new display or the replacement display in together. And from here the steps are pretty straightforward. Once after we put the display, we put the flex cable, we put the ground, and then we put back the connections all back together. As you can see here, I'm gonna start the soldering all the pins all together. And again, take my time, no rush. I want to make sure like they align perfectly, no any issues. And by the way, underneath that I already put the washers. So everything's already put back, already put the screws and everything. No any forcing. Now time to put back the main board with the new display together. Back to the front panel. Let's put back the flex cable over there. Start gathering all the screws that we put aside, and that's the old panel. The old panel seems, old display seems to be heavier. So I'm not sure what about this one. Either underneath that, or it's in the front that we put, because it somehow doesn't align perfectly. And I did take the measurement, whether I want to cut it using a saw or something. Make sure that it can like drop in line for the display, because I see like there is a little gap on the display that if I put that over there right away, how I'm gonna fit in into the meter or the bars on the left side, it's not gonna align nicely. So definitely something that you need to think of in the future. Cut that particular part. I'm gonna mark that. Yeah, if I do that on the side, how I'm gonna put the buttons? So that doesn't make sense at all. But it definitely looks nice. I have a new display. So for now, I'm just gonna skip this acrylic part and then just use the old display. Alright, we're almost done. We're just gonna need to put back some of the screws, get all the things together, put everything's in the place, then we should be able to test it next. Pretty sure we need to put the nut back to hold up the main board in the front panel. And then remember, this is the one that will hold the big encoder in the front. So like for changing the presets or changing the perimeters, make sure also the encoder, the plastic part aligns to the part. So the big one, the big encoder here, that's what we're gonna put. Put everything back. Alright, everything's back. I forgot to put the ground, so gotta redo that a little bit to add the ground. Make sure that the connections are there for the ground. This is the ground from the main board for the main board to the front panel. Alright, now looks everything's done. Now the final part here is to put the front panel in the front. Screw those 4 screws, put the power back, and then connect back the flex cable to the main board. Now putting the flex back, make sure that they align into the right socket, and really delicate, take your time on it, don't force anything. If you feel something funky, then stop and take your time. This is the final part, the final piece. Make sure like it's all connected. Time for testing. Crossing finger. It works. Looks, testing the encoders, testing everything. Looks very different. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I think like that summarizes the tutorial on how to do it, and stay tuned for the next interesting video.